So, about 8 hours ago, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth account put up a interview talking about combat, chocobos, minigames, and more. I was asleep at the time. I didn't see that happen. I took a fat nap. But we're gonna go through it right now and see what is going on, what's up. Let's see what we can glean from Director Hamaguchi. Some more about the games. Maybe we'll get a little bit more insight on some specific details. So let's go ahead and read this interview off. 7 Rebirth is shaping up to be a remarkable RPG. It's a beautiful, expansive adventure stuffed with things to see and do, and an exciting story, tons of optional content, minigames, and much more. Of course, it's also full of memorable characters, and the bonds between them are more important than ever. Even affecting combat in the form of powerful new synergy attacks, you could see some of them in action in the most recent trailer. I guess you see there's a lot to talk about, so we spoke to the game's director Hamaguchi about exactly what to expect from the upcoming RPG. How much of the story of the original Final Fantasy VII is included in this game? And Hamaguchi says, I'll say that the locations covered in this game go up to the Forgotten Capital. So, the Forgotten Capital, I'm assuming in Forgotten Capital, that's how it's translated in Japanese, but the Forgotten Capital, I believe, is portraying to the Forgotten City in the original 7, where a certain scene happens. If you know, you know. If you don't know, don't worry about it. So that's basically where Rebirth is going to end. And also, I believe they said that this game's going to have 150 gigabytes of data on this, of space on the 2 discs, so 100 on one, 50 on the other, which makes sense. I'd figured that was going to be the minimal amount since they're doing 2 discs, but that's a big game. That's a lot of fucking content. I'm excited. I'm ready for it. So yeah, we're ending off with the Forgotten Capital, where Disc 1 originally ended in the original Final Fantasy VII, so that's very interesting. I'm excited to see how much is going to be reimagined in this remake. You don't need to have played the game or remake for this one though, right? No, all 3 of the remake project titles have been designed as standalone games in their own right, so any can be enjoyed fully, even if you haven't experienced the previous game. I do think it's worthwhile to play remake before Rebirth, but it's not essential. If you want to know what happened in the previous game, there's a story so far, digest movie in the game that will get you up to speed. So yeah, it's probably going to be like a quick minute or 2 thing of the story so far, explaining like the big chunks of like what happened in remake. I feel in Rebirth there's going to be little hints and texts and voice lines like sprinkled around that, like if you've played remake, you'll be like, I remember that from what happened in remake that is brought up in Rebirth, things like that. So if you're like very, very keen on basically knowing catching all the little details and little Easter eggs sprinkled in there, that's you know, you can play remake before Rebirth. That's how it's gonna be. 7 Remake had one of many favorite combat systems of any RPG. How have you built on it for this new game? The combat is still based on the system from Final Fantasy VII Remake, but for Rebirth we've added in new elements that focus on teaming up with your allies, which I'm excited for. That's gonna be fun. By observing the flow of battle and switching to party leader at the right time, you can use new synergy skills and abilities to gain an advantage over your enemies. How has the materia system evolved from the previous game? Is there any new materia to look forward to? There are many more materia types than in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and these allow for exciting new combinations of battle. For example, there are materia that automate some of your actions in battle, like an AI, auto cure, auto fire, auto blizzard, things like that, as well as others exciting new types. I believe they kind of had something like that in remake, but it only worked when you weren't controlling that character. I don't know if that's how it's going to still work. Maybe they fix it to where like after a certain percentage of your health, the spell just goes off on its own if you have the ATB for it. Or maybe, you know, it's only for when you're not playing as that character slotted onto that. We'll see. There's also exciting new types of materia, which I am very excited about. I think one of the ones that they might have changed has been, and they were both purple. They're both purple materias. There was in the original 7. There was what was it? I think it was guard or something like that, to where you had a % chance to take damage for another teammate. Like you just jump into in front of their attack. Actually, I think Barrett has something similar to that in his ATB called Sentinel, but I'd have to recheck. I can't remember if he takes damage for someone else or not. But there's now a perfect guard materia, to where if you time your guard right, you could increasingly stagger, like you increase the stagger bar significantly, and you could just like get a quick second or two to wail on the enemy. And there are tiers to that which are like really good, that helps you not from the timing window for parries is longer. And I think the final one was if you perfect parry or perfect block, then you don't get like grabbed. You can ignore like grab attacks from bosses or any other characters that bind you, like the scorpion silk spiders in Remake. How I believe they had silk shot and they could bind you for a quick moment or two. I think they had that at least. So things like that would no longer be a problem if you perfect guard at a maxed out leveled perfect block materia. The most recent trailer revealed that there are lots of chocobo types in this game. Yeah, we saw mountain chocobos and I think river chocobos? Maybe they're air chocobos now, I'm not sure. They were blue. I remember blue being river chocobos, but we'll see. Why was this important to show? Nostalgia. We wanted to pay homage to the original Final Fantasy VII. There it is. There were many different types of chocobos in that game, such as the river chocobos and the mountain chocobos. One of the big draws of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is that you can explore the vast world map, so we reimagined the different chocobos to become important features of that exploration. So they're still optional, but they're kind of like more in your face about it, I guess, to where it's like, hey, here's chocobos for you to explore, and some chocobos that will help you get to certain areas of this exploration if you want. Use them to fly through the air, climb mountains, or speed across water surfaces. Speed across water surfaces. I mean, I know you can run across water surfaces as a river chocobos, but I wonder how that's gonna like look in Remake with the 3D models. Just have like it's like a speed boost, and you just like see them running on water. That'd be cool. You can also enjoy the chocobos you have collected in another way, by entering them in the Gold Saucer Chocobo races. So we are technically still collecting chocobos. So I wonder if we have to somehow either find or capture these specific chocobos and ride them and then bring them to a chocobo ranch, maybe? Like a checkpoint area, a stable, I suppose. And then you have access to them in every other stable throughout the game. Maybe that's how it's gonna work. If so, that'll be interesting, because that adds more variety of like, it's like, oh, in this region, there's gonna be only mountain chocobos. In this other area, there's gonna be only river chocobos. In this other area, there's only gonna be flying chocobos, things like that. Like, that would actually make it to where it's like, well, you captured this chocobo in this area, so now you can use it in all the other areas when you get to those new areas. That'd be interesting. We'll have to see. Yeah, that's what I'm getting from this. I'm not 100% sure. That would be interesting if that's how they do it. The world does look massive. How difficult was it to interpret the world map of the original 7 for this new game? This was one of the hardest challenges we faced when developing 7 Rebirth. There are a lot of games out there that let you explore in a limited area of a specific location, 16. But we haven't seen all that many games, 14 as well, that let you travel and explore a whole world. If that world is too massive, then it makes it harder for the game to work. But if it is too small, then you don't get the feeling of being in a massive world in the first place. We put a lot of thought and hard work into getting that balance right to fulfill both requirements. So it is pretty much a giant zone. I feel like what Hamaguchi just said there is like, this is going to be a kind of a zone-based game, but it's going to weave between areas so well that it's going to feel like an open world game, like a whole open world game, even though it's just massive giant zones connected to each other that you could just run in between too. Where in 16 you had to look at the map and you had to select a spot, and then you go there and you kind of run around and pick up all these checkpoints and fast travel things. I think here there's going to be fast travel points, of course, because it sounds like the world's going to be huge. But there's also going to be like, aside from that, you're going to actually be able to run between the areas without having to enter a world map and select the next area. You could just actually run in between them. I feel like the loading zones for the next area are going to be like tunnels of dungeons that you can go through, like the Crystal Caverns from going to Calm and the Chocobo Ranch, and then you get past the Midgar Serpent and you go into these Crystal Caverns to go out the other side of the map where Fort Condor are and Junon Harbor. I feel like those will be loading maps for the next big area. We'll see if that's the case. If so, very impressive, very exciting. It's not just chocobos, of course, there are vehicles too. The buggy in particular has had an awesome redesign from the original game. How did you capture the look of the original vehicle while making it seem fresh and new? We did a lot of research in order to decide things like the basic structure, type of tires, with a Y, okay, and so on. We looked into the kinds of modern motor vehicles used in deserts and on poor quality roads, including military vehicles. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I like that. So I mean, for me, it looks pretty much the same, but it does feel like slightly modernized in a way. I guess like with this, is there a boost? There doesn't seem to be a boost, but this looks like, you know, it could be a boost type system. Like, I don't think this was originally on the original 7 design, but I do like the old new look. It looks very nice. Next, we look at its external appearance. Design elements such as the jet engine at the rear for acceleration. Oh, I was right. And the propeller screws for traveling across water surfaces were included to hark back to the somewhat fanatical buggy design in the original 7. However, we paid special attention to designing these fictional elements in a way that made them look real and functional. Propeller screws for traveling across water surfaces. I mean, the buggy was able to go through in between rivers, but I don't remember it having propellers for that. Propeller screws for that. I just remember it just driving over it. So maybe it'll slightly transform a little bit when it hits a river. That seems interesting. Most recent trailer also showed Cloud zipping along the two-wheeled wheelie. You mean a Segway? Can you tell us a little about this fun little machine? We want to have the player experience feelings of liberation and freedom in the Costa del Sol resort area. Everyone called this. The Segway is going to be in Costa del Sol. It feels very Costa del Sol. It just looks and feels like a vacation vibe. So we've given Cloud and the gang a fun and quirky little vehicle to scoot around on rather than walking like usual. If you're telling me we're gonna see Red 13 on a Segway, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. That sounds funny as shit. What about the tiny Bronco plane? Can we expect to see that too? Of course, the tiny Bronco will appear too. Yes! Which means we are going to run into Sid as well. Because that is... I hope they don't change it to where, like, you get the tiny Bronco some other way and you don't meet Sid and, fuck. Oh, I'm blanking on her name. Was it Sheila? Or Shara? Something like that. I blank on her name sometimes. But, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be amazing. Due to the events of the story, the time that it can actually fly is very short. But you can still use it after the wings have been damaged to cross the ocean freely, just like in the original game. To cross the ocean freely. I don't remember it being able to cross the ocean. I just remember it being able to run along the coasts of the islands, but you were able to get to different islands you wouldn't before because they touched upon each other. We'll see if we can actually fly through the ocean now. Well, not fly, but like float across the ocean now. So that'll be interesting. What new story elements can we expect from the game? As with Remake, we have been careful to maintain the storyline from the original game, while at the same time adding extra story content to flesh it out as a remake. In addition to the main story, there has also been a huge amount of new side content added, and you can expect to see new story told through that as well, aka the Zack aspect of the story, and possibly this mysterious cloaked figure in the Junon Harbor with the red ginger hair. We don't know who that is. It could be a completely new character. It could be a returning character with a new look. We'll have to find out. How does the new content affect the structure of the game? Unlike the previous title, which had new content made available to the player following developments in the story, Rebirth has been designed to allow the player to freely select what order to play much of its own content. Accordingly, it has also been structured so that none of the side content becomes cut off and you never lose the opportunity to go back and play it. Regardless of how far you progress in the story, that means that you can always take a detour and explore the expansive and vibrant world whenever the mood takes you. That's basically going to be me, like, I'm going to 100% as much as I can before moving on to the next area, and if I can 100% everything, I'm going to grab everything I know I physically can get before moving on and having to come back with later gear, chocobos, whatever I need to get everything. Among the new content is minigames. Many people remember the original 7 for having lots of minigames. For that reason, we felt it was important to let the player come across lots of minigames while exploring the world in Rebirth 2. There are actually even more in Rebirth than in the original game. I'm super excited about that because I love the minigames in Golden Saucers. I really like the Gauntlet the most. I just constantly played that out to see which my characters I had made to be the strongest. The little brawl was fun. I loved the motorcycle chase minigame. Those were all incredibly fun. So I'm excited to see those return in wonderful fashion in the remake and see if they added, well, I mean, of course they said they added more in Rebirth, but I want to see if, like, I'm pretty sure they sprinkled them throughout the entire world, but I also want to see if there are more in the Golden Saucer among the 3-4 that they had in the original. What's your personal favorite minigame? Out of all the different minigames available, the card game Queen's Blood could be said to be one of the headliners. Are you telling me you put a triple triad in 7? Oh shit. A card game in 7 called Queen's Blood. I think Queen's Blood is actually... That sounds familiar. I feel like that was a Limit Break name for a female character, but I'm not sure. It's an in-world card game that's very popular in the world of Rebirth, and a minigame that can be played many times from the start of your adventure to the end. Winning matches doesn't just let you enhance your deck, you can also follow a unique Queen's Blood story as well. The narrative progresses as you engage more challenges in matches. It's literally fucking 8's triple triad with the Queen of Cards storyline, except it's called Queen's Blood. I love that. I'm excited. I'm gonna lose my life to Queen's Blood. Here we go. Can we expect to see the new elements in Rebirth that are taken from the compilation of 7? Let me reread that because I think I confused myself. Can we expect to see new elements in Rebirth that are taken from the compilation of 7, the original? I cannot reveal full details yet, but yes, there are many characters and details added to Rebirth that weren't featured in the original 7, but were seen in the compilation. Okay, so this is basically him saying, yes, we are adding stuff that wasn't in the original game that we intentionally wanted to be in the original game. As I suspected when they remade it, when they came out with Remake and I started playing it and I started seeing all the different changes, I'm like, this was the story they wanted. Like, the first thing that popped in my mind while playing through Remake and seeing the different changes in the story and things like that was like, this is the story they wanted to tell and show from the very beginning, but they couldn't because it was just way too much stuff and they can only work with 3 discs space. So now they're adding all the, maybe not everything, but a lot of the more of the stuff that they wanted to originally add in the original 7. I'm super excited to see that because it's basically like, it's like playing the game all over again, but playing a new game at the exact same time, because you're still playing the game that you remember, but so much and so little at the same time has changed with the story to where it feels completely brand new and you have no idea what the fuck is happening or what's going to happen, and I love that so much. 7 Remake had a fantastic musical score that combined iconic themes with entirely new pieces. What can we expect from Rebirth's soundtrack? Just like Final Fantasy Remake, we have created a huge number of arrangements for the original music, as well as new tracks to go alongside all changing situations in the story. You can expect great things from the music this time around too. So like Junon Harbor, Calm, Chocobo Ranch theme, songs like that. The City of Ancients, the Forgotten City, like hearing those, because we got a taste of the, I think it was the City of Ancients. It was either the City of Ancients or the Forgotten City. We got a small taste of that, like, change of what it's gonna sound like in Remake when you were all in Aerith's old quote-unquote room in the Shinra building. There's like a small musical line that was very much sounded like the City of Ancients or the Forgotten City. I can't remember off the top of my head. They both sound slightly familiar to me. I'd have to go back and listen to it and compare it to the old songs. But those songs send goosebumps up my spine every single time. It just chills, and I love those songs so much. There's the one that stands out the most to me when I think of 7, and I can't wait to hear what they sound like rearranged. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Finally, what are you excited for fans to experience in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? This game has many tens of hours of side content spread around the game world. Outside of the main story, it's fine to ignore the main story if you want to go off and explore the world map to experience the side content whenever you like, a suitable juncture in the narrative. Where to go and what to start from is entirely down to the player. I can't wait for them to see them enjoy the world, enjoy the freedom of choice that the game gives them. Many thanks to Hamaguchi for answering our questions. Rebirth launches for PS5 February 29th. Credits for digital edition of the game. Following bonus items, the mobile trio. So yeah, that was the interview. I don't think there's anything else that they put out after that. Let me see. I think it was just their usual marketing stuff. Yeah, that was the only thing that they had put out recently. There's more 7 news. We'll find out about it. There is going to be a Rebirth panel later today in about 3-ish hours. At TGS, talking about or showing off more of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So when that stuff gets dropped, definitely gonna watch it, definitely gonna record it, and that is where we will stand and sit. But that is all that I can find and see on news for Rebirth right now. I'll probably go back and look up at other interviews and anything else that they have talked about Rebirth since the first TGS trailer. But I'm excited for Rebirth. I loved Remake. I'm gonna have to probably go back and play Original 7 from start to where the Forgotten City is, just to like see what they could change, what they're gonna be adding. I'm super excited for this game. And it comes out in like 5 to 4 months. I'm so excited for this game. It's gonna be amazing. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Don't forget to take care of yourselves, and I will see you all in the next video. But for now, I hope you all take care.